This screencast is about how to do a B question. And if we look at our paper, we have obviously the B question from the question which is above the line and the B from below. If you look, both of them start with the phrase, do you think? Do you think? Which tells you that B questions are your opinion. Now, we know that you've got lots of opinions, so this shouldn't be a problem. So let's see what we've got to do. So if we look at how many marks it's worth to start off with, both of them are worth 4 marks each, and that's really important when we come to write our answer. So they'll give you a statement, do you think, do you think? Read that carefully and then have a look at what it's asking us to do. Give 2 reasons for your point of view. Now if we think about that carefully in terms of how many marks it's worth, if we're going to give 2 reasons, then we can clearly see that each reason is going to be worth 2 marks each. 2 reasons, 2 marks each equals 4. So it's important that we work out then, well, how do we make sure that we get all 4 marks instead of only getting, say for example, 2 marks. So if we have a look at the mark scheme for a B question, we can see that we've still got the 4 marks here. And it's telling us that it should be a personal response, so it should only be your opinion. You don't need to include any religious views, any Christian or Muslim views, unless you are one and you're showing that as your own personal view. So obviously we want 4 marks, but let's see how we get there. So for 1 mark you need to give a brief reason for your personal opinion. For 2 marks you can either give 2 brief reasons, so short reasons, or 1 developed. Now this word developed is important and we're going to look at that in a second. For 3 marks you could have 2 reasons and 1 of them's developed, but this is what we want, 4 marks, 2 developed reasons. To get 4 out of 4 on a B question you must have 2 developed reasons. So what does that mean? Well, one way that we can remember how to do a B question is to remember that we should P twice in a B, PP in a B. What does that mean? So P is your point. So whether you agree or disagree, it's asked you your opinion, you say what you think. Either I agree or I disagree with the point that's being made. E is to explain. Now if you're going to explain your point, you have to use because. So it's either I agree because or I disagree because. And give a good solid reason why you agree or disagree. Now that's a simple reason and you'd get 1 mark. However, remember the mark scheme said to develop the reason. How can we develop? Well, there's a few ways that you can develop. You can either explain in more detail, so add to that reason above. Do not start a new reason, you have to be adding more development, more detail. You could use the word because again. I agree because, explain, because, and explain in more detail. Or, in some cases, you might be able to give an example to back up your point. I agree with this because, explain, for example, in this case or that case. And if you know of any evidence that might back that up, you might know a quote, a religious quote, or you might actually know real hand examples, or real hand evidence to back your point up. So if we go back to have a look at the area that you've got to write on, we can see here that this is the area for your B answer. Maybe 10, 12 lines worth. So all of this space is going to give you 4 marks worth of answers. Now as an examiner, I know that I look that is pretty much going to be full up for you to be able to put 2 developed answers. So let's have a look at how to answer a question. So I've chosen the B question. Do you think that religious experiences prove that God exists? Give 2 reasons for your point of view. So I've got to think of 2 developed reasons for my view. So I'm going to start with my point, whether I agree or disagree. So I'm going to say I agree. So I've done the P out of P in a B. Now remember to next go on to the E to explain. I need the word because. Now I need to think of a reason why I think that religious experiences prove that God exists. So hopefully this is revising back to knowing that there are 4 religious experiences: miracle, prayer, numinous and conversion. So I'm going to focus on one of them to help me to develop my point. So I'm going to say I agree, and I'm going to say that I have seen something so amazing that only God could have done it. Okay, I agree because I've seen something so amazing that only God could have done this, and that's a definition of a miracle. So that's my point. I agree is my point. My explanation is because I've seen something so amazing that only God could have done it. It was a miracle. So I now need to explain this further for the second E, so I can put my example to develop it. For example, I've seen someone who was very ill get completely better. So if we look at this, here's my point. I agree. My explanation, because I've seen something, and to develop it I've put, for example, I've seen someone who is very ill get better. That is 2 out of the 4 marks available. I've P'd once. So I'm going to go on to P again to show you how that can look. So I've added my second developed reason. So my other reason is, here's my point. I also agree, and I've got my because in there. I prayed and it came true. Only God would have had the power to answer my prayer, so he must exist. So I've given my reason, and then I've backed it up again with an example. For example, I prayed that my sick puppy would get better, and he did. Now, no one is going to come and ask you whether you really had a sick puppy, but I can use that as an example to back up my point that it was something that only a powerful God could do. So if I saw this as an examiner on a paper, I would have to give it 4. 1 mark for their reason, 2 to back it up, another mark for a new reason and backing that up. 4 out of 4. Finally, let's quickly look at a real life example from a student, and I think it's probably even the same question. So you can see here quite clearly they've used all the space for a B question. As an examiner, I think, well, there's a good chance they've got 2 developed reasons here. I can even see 2 bullet points, which makes me think, could that be 1 developed reason? Could this be 2 developed reasons? No reason why you can't use bullet points like that. And down the side, I even can see that the candidate has written P-E-E. P-E-E. Now, whilst you don't have to do that, and you shouldn't write outside this line, this is telling me that they know how to answer a B. Now, obviously, when I've come to mark it, I've actually put in the P-E-E, P-E-E to show that it's actually worth 4 marks. So this is how a B question should be answered. This is what the examiner is looking for a full mark answer.